once it became a real football team to watch and support and have the success. Sure, I know tables got broken, but those same folks, if they could walk afterward, were walking into the stadium to see some good football.
Yeah, I truly believe that the big narrative of Bills fandom and everything about just the craziness of the party was because there was nothing going on inside the stadium that was like really worth getting excited about. And then you had like a whole swath of people who were like, tickets are $15, sure, like I'll get them on StubHub and go in there. Good luck finding that now, right?
Right.
The team is good.
Yeah, the economics of it. And again, that'll be the other thing to look at is how affordable. When I could see firsthand as a customer the cost of doing business. Now, granted, you don't have to have a club seat or certainly the suite. And I don't know, I heard a number on suites. It's like, what, $350,000 or something like that. That's corporate money, presumably.
We have a couple whales out there in Western New York. We don't know.
A couple whales maybe. But it's different. And how they're approaching it, they being like Legends, the company that's working on behalf of the Bills that sells all this, how that is all going to and how it will sustain itself. Well, it's going to the best marketing campaign they have is this team, is Josh Allen, is their success. And it's fascinating to me that the timing of the changeover at coach happens now as they're about to go into this new stadium. Like the most diehard fan with whom I spoke during that whole period said, I don't get that, because to them it felt like if anything was going to save Sean after another failed falling short of Super Bowl, it would be that.
I honestly thought that, like, when people ask me, like, what do you think about, what's going to happen with McDermott? And there's always a part of me like, yeah, it could happen. Like, you could get fired. But
absolutely, yeah.
But there's so much going on between the end of the 2025 season and the beginning of the 2026 season for the Bills. Like, to add that one more layer of complexity to me seemed like that's a big undertaking if you're going to do that. And I guess they weren't afraid of it. But
not at all. And it speaks to a brash sense that maybe you have to find success, find what better ways to do things. And look, it's so, I know this, obviously it bothered a lot of people because of the respect that Sean commanded, the popularity that he had. And he didn't have, there were people I'm sure who were, move on from him. There were, for sure. But the vast majority of, the great support that he had was one thing. The other thing was that Brandon Beane, who for sure is as brash as it gets as a general manager, I think that's part of his superpower. Has he had misses? Absolutely. All GMs do. But I do believe and support that you can, as ownership, now we're talking about Terry Pegula, to say, look, we got to try something different. Steve Bisciotti did that with the Ravens and went to a first-year head coach in Jesse Minter. Bill's going with a first-year head coach in Joe Brady. Maybe, again, not necessarily the unanimous choice of fan base, but it's different. It's still different. It's maybe safer because it is in-house. I think it is safer, not maybe, in that regard. There is a continuity piece to it. There is a Josh Allen connection piece to it. But more than anything, it's just, and I think had Terry Pegula simply said what Steve Bisciotti said in parting ways with John Harbaugh, Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl coach, multiple Super Bowl coach, and one of the best to do it in this game. We just have to do something different. We've got a team that we think should be getting to the Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl now, and he hasn't brought it home for us, so let's try something else. And if Terry approached it that way, as simple as that, I'm not saying it would have made people happy who were unhappy with Sean leaving or being booted, but they would. I think it would have received it a little better.
Yeah, it's wild to think about this. The new head coach, you talk about the answer in the building. I feel like it's Joe Brady, like maybe a couple other guys, but that whole coaching staff feels like it's been replaced.
Oh yeah.
So it's
for sure.
He's one of the few points of continuity. But I do think it's always fascinating to me, the pendulum swing.
And the way this one swings now, what we know about Joe and what we know about this team is its strength. I mean, it's offense. It's again, Josh, and we'll see where things go with the receiving core. That's always the big question mark. But it's still an offense that's highly productive. Finds its way and gives this team a chance. We know all that. Those are all givens. Those are all check. And Joe's a part of that. What we don't know is the changeover on defense. Now, again, what do we know about the defense? It has fallen woefully short. So there's, I'm sure, fans who will embrace the idea of something different there. So it's a whole new look. It's a 3-4 scheme. It's a aggressive approach. And that word aggressive couldn't have been used more than we heard it. I mean, it was repeated many times in press conferences and other opportunities for Joe Brady to speak, Brandon Beane to speak, and now you bring aboard Jim Leonard and hearing from him and knowing his background too as a player, but as a coach who has never called defensive signals, transition there, personnel turnover on that side to get people who fit that scheme. Whatever this is worth, my football years tell me that doesn't happen fast. That there takes some time to get to that point where it's.
Yeah, I do like that they brought in Pete Carmichael, who has familiarity with Joe Brady, has familiarity with John Fox. I think that's a huge add. Huge.
And keep this in mind. And there's some interesting numbers that I've seen and worked with. So in 2017, when Sean McDermott was hired, another Sean was hired by the Rams, Sean McVay. He was 30 years old, youngest coach in modern NFL history. He had to go back to like 1928, to find and I think that guy was like in his 20s, Pappy, whatever his name was, but it was a different, it was way back in the day. Okay. So Sean McVay and also a guy named Kyle Shanahan gets hired by the 49ers, and a team that had interviewed Sean McVay. And they both come in as these young guns, 30 for McVay, and I want to say 32 maybe or whatever. He was early 30s, Kyle Shanahan, son of Mike Shanahan. And from that point on, from 17 to 26, when Joe Brady is part of the cycle, 10 coaches get fired and hired in this cycle, he's one of 3 sub-40-year-old coaches, all right? Right. Clint Kubiak, hired by the Raiders, 39. Mike LaFleur, hired by the Cardinals, 39. So you got 3 guys that are under 40 or just under 40. So go back to 2017 to this year, 23 coaches hired, sub-40-year-old head coaches. Prior to 27, or in the 20 years prior to 2017, 11 were hired that were under 40. So it's telling that the value of youth and offensive-oriented guys, Kubiak, LaFleur, again, Brady, is another point to that. I just found that so interesting because, and I talked with Brandon Beane and Joe Brady about this, and look, it's a thing in terms of the vibe, the enthusiasm that feel that a youthful coach can bring to the table, and how important that is, and or helpful it can be. We don't know. I mean, what the outcome's going to be. And just because McVay got to 2 Super Bowls and won one, and Kyle Shanahan got to 2 Super Bowls, lost both, but it doesn't guarantee that success because of their age. No, but there is a connection thing that goes on, and there is, kind of an understanding of a lot of things that. And stamina, and I think of the hours. It's a crazy business, and I'm not saying Sean at 51 when he was fired from the job, certainly and probably in better physical shape than Brady and anybody combined. Former wrestler who took very good care of himself, but it's just interesting to see how that trend caught here too.
Yeah, no, it's wild because I remember when Sean got hired, him talking about like sleeping at the stadium overnight, and just like, but he was like what 42 then, so not too far off from
not too far off, and so I did. I've had an opportunity to do a bunch of books about pro football, and a lot of more collaborations One was
I'm gonna bring this one up real quick. I did bring this one. I got this in 11th grade for Christmas, so I'm gonna make you sign it by the time we're done here. But
11th grade. Thanks for making me feel.
Sorry about that. It was not intentional, but it's I've had it this whole time.
That's okay. And that was the one that wasn't a collaboration, but I bring up among the collaborations John Gruden. We did a book called "Do You Love Football?" and it was a blast because he's just out there. Just his whole personality and energy. And at one point, he was obviously a young gun, and his agent Bob Lamont, who also represented McDermott, represents McDermott. He told me a story about Sean McVay, that when he took him on as a client, he had first taken him on at age 25 for a quarterback or for an offensive assistant job with Washington, and he at first wasn't going to sit down with him because it's a referral business, so you got to come to him, and if he chooses you, great, he'll represent you, but he's not out there seeking clients. And he doesn't have to. I mean, he's had, Andy Reid. He's had a pretty good stable of coaches and made a lot of money. It did more than $3 billion worth of contracts through his time. So he says McVay, though, impressed him right away as another version of Gruden. He thought it was Gruden reincarnate, and that struck him as something with that level, that vibe, that energy. But again, you got to bring something else. He did say, and I thought this was interesting, it's not, he said, I don't care about the X's and O's that these guys bring to the table. They better have that figured out.
Yeah.
It's the it factor. I think Joe Brady, for his part, I thought he handled himself wonderfully. And winning the press conference, what's it really mean? But it's for Bills fans, I think they had to be encouraged to hear and listen to that, what he was all about. And I especially loved how he handled McDermott, how he made sure he threw flowers at McDermott. That was very good.
They were deserved. They were deserved.
He did it beautifully.
Yeah. Switching gears a little bit. You are a Hall of Fame voter. Right. And there was a lot of drama with that. I won't get into that because
it's okay.
I don't care about Bill Belichick. But from your perspective, the quarterback that we have on the roster right now, Hall of Famer?
I think so. I mean, he's got the credentials. We got to see more. Just in the body of work to today puts him in the conversation. Definitely would like to see a Super Bowl. An appearance, take it to that next level. The MVP and MVP candidacy matters a ton. Numbers are going to always be a factor, but it is far bigger than a numbers conversation. I will tell you that. There's a lot more that goes into it, but he has MVP pedigree, if that's a right way to put it. I'm not comfortable necessarily talking about too many existing active players, coaches, whatever, for Hall consideration because we're still a long way from A, his retirement, and B, the 5 years that follow his inactivity before he's in the room being discussed as a Hall of Famer. So we got a long way to go. But I like that. But you brought up as a Hall of Fame voter, and the Bill Belichick thing, I have no problem addressing that in the sense that I know you said you don't care about it, but
that was more just me throwing shade at New England.
It was right, but it was I voted for him, and I also voted for Robert Kraft, and the firestorm from that didn't surprise me. What surprised me was how it got out before, and my wife and I were in Florida and just sitting quietly, I don't know, we had dinner and we're just kind of sitting there looking at each other and talking, and then my phone, and I see the ESPN story, and I saying, "What the?" It wasn't blank, and I didn't, how, and if you piece it together pretty simply, so they do this knock on the door for those who are in, and that's the time, the time that we voted, and which was January 13th, to the time of the knocks and everything else, so long that the amount of time was so long. it's going to get out. We're held to the, part of the bylaw and the oath you take as a voter is you keep your mouth shut. You don't reveal. Also, we don't know the result. They don't tell us the final result. We know the finalists for whom we voted, but we don't know the result. So those are two different conversations. They don't want us to even talk about the finalists, and they don't tell us, thank God, who is in, because now you can't share it. Now you can, keep the secret. The best way to keep your secret, don't have the secret.
Don't have the answer.
So this got out because they knocked on the doors of those who were in, but they make a phone call to those who were finalists and didn't get in. He got the phone call. And apparently, and I would say more than apparently, if not directly from Bill's camp, spread the word that he wasn't in, because it's a shocker. And it was a shocker. And I was as shocked as anyone. Yeah. Shocked as anyone. And the blowback was intense. The attacks on the hall from media, from fans, and then I got attacked when my vote became public that I voted for Belichick. How could you vote for that cheater? And a lot of Bills fans wanted to come at me for that, and I welcome that. That's part of this. If you're going to be, and I take great pride in being a hall voter. It's something that very few get to do. It requires you to stay on your game, watching the game, knowing the history of the game, and having that. It's not about being a gatekeeper. It's about just being immersed. And we have 9-hour meetings before the result, before we reach the conclusion of voting. 9 hours and a lot of breaks, thank God. And my bladder couldn't take sitting there for 9 hours and not doing. But 9 hours of meeting, and a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of study. And I'll tell you, the worst night of sleep that I get is the night before that vote, because you're going to change lives for the better or for the worse. And the part I hate the most is, honestly, but I live with it, we do not get pats on the back for who we put in. We get punches in the gut for who doesn't get in. Yeah.
That's wild. Can I ask one more question? And if you don't want to answer, it's fine.
Go ahead.
What's up with Steve Tasker?
Yeah, it's not what's up with Steve Tasker. Mark gone before me as a voter. We've been fighting this fight, if you will, and this year got him down to the final 9. He's in what's called the senior pool, which stinks. After 25 years of not getting in as a modern era candidate, you fall into this. It's not a pool; it's an ocean. It's just so many names there that you pull out, and I've pushed extremely hard for him to, I along with others, the Bills as an organization, we collaborated, worked together. They're social media, graphics department, media folks, Chris Brown and the whole crew, Pete Gwelly, worked with him extensively, Derek Boyko, to get the word out about him, to get facts together. And they reached out and said, what can we do? And we met multiple times to come up with a fact sheet that was distributed to voters. And they did a phenomenal job. And then I just did my best reinforcement with the vote. I'm not on the senior committee. There's a subcommittee. I wasn't on it, but I certainly know all those voters and reached out to them. And he got to the 9, and I was, holding my breath and hoping he could get to that group that would have been the 5 that were there, 3 seniors, final 3, but also with Belichick and also with Kraft. Yeah. And we were voting 3 out of 5 of that group. Yeah. So, the story. It was 3 players, right? Roger Craig, Kenny Anderson, and L.C. Greenwood, the late L.C. Greenwood. And we're picking, 3 out of that. Again, I picked Craig as my senior and Kraft and Belichick, but I would have loved to have seen Steve there. The fight's never over, and as long as I'm breathing and part of it, I will do all I can, to try to make that right, because he is so deserving. He is a clear. You asked me about Josh Allen, a Hall of Famer. I'll answer it by saying Steve Tasker is unequivocally a Hall of Famer, but if think about what we just went through here. if Bill Belichick can't make it,
Yeah.
with, the second winningest coach in NFL history, the credentials. Hate him all you want as a Bills fan,
Yep.
but even the most ardent Bills fan knows what he's about, and he falls short. Anybody can fall short, sadly.
Yeah. Well, I have faith. It's going to happen for Steve. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
I do too. I want to believe it, and every year it's just you get to start again and push for it. But yes, he is a one of a kind kind of player. Was.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, switching gears a little bit.
Yeah,
Completely off of football.
sure,
You a chicken wing guy? I hope so.
of course.
All right, so we're going to get into our wing talk, brought to you by William Attire Law Offices. Do you have a favorite wing place that you like to frequent?
Oh man, yeah. I gotta say, I love Amherst Ale House. It's close. That's part of it. Certainly another.
And John has a great operation over there.
John's got a super
we
operation.
love John.
And I know John very well. Elmo's it will rank, as one of the and Wingnuts, man. They just captivated us being the whole family, because when we want to do, that's just size of wing, but flavor combinations and their own creative takes on sauce. Sauces are fabulous. So I'm going to make them the top three. I know Gabriel's Gate is popular. I know, obviously. Oh, and Duff's is an oldie but goodie in my view, and another one that I would say gets. I don't know if this is fair to even say underrated. It shouldn't be, but Duff's falls into my short list of places that I'm sorry, as I'm thinking about it, Grover's on Transit. Now you think it's a burger place, of course, and a small. It was Grover Cleveland's hunting cabin that they, and first of all, just a cool vibe, great place to go for a beer or a burger, but their wings, superb.
Good stuff. All right, you mentioned the sauces. Do you have a favorite sauce, whether it's like hot, medium, or mild, or something exotic?
I think it's I'm more of medium in a general term, but I'm going to go back to Wingnuts' their sauce, right? I want to. It's probably got. I'm not doing it justice, but I think it's their, kind of their own
signature,
original signature sauce. I would say that's my favorite sauce. I know it's different because it's not. It's a little. It's got some spice, but not too much. It's got some sweetness, but not too much.
Yep.
It's great.
Yeah, they done a really good job with it.
And I'm also a garlic parm guy in many ways, but I'll do the medium, but I got to have some garlic parm in the mix.
Yeah. I always got to get my medium or hot, depending on how I'm feeling that day. Yeah. But then sometimes we'll split it off if they have other flavors. We'll get like maybe 10 of one and 10 of the other or something like that.
As you're speaking, they're all coming to mind, which means fortunately we get a chance to go out a lot. Glen Park's garlic parm.
I've never had their wings. I've never had their wings.
Try it. Do you like garlic parm?
Yeah, I don't mind. It's not in my top tier, but it's
that's where I discovered it in a big, and I know other places do it, but real good.
Awesome. And then how many wings have you ever put down or you've seen put down?
If this is, you ever been to Folletta's?
Of course, yeah.
All right,
yeah, my
Mike's
father-in-law
place.
was the maitre d' there forever.
All right, so Mike,
Shout out Tom Gaiella.
Yeah, it's not just because he's a friend and the place is like being in a family kitchen. Their wings with the poppy seed sauce, the poppy seed dressing that they put on salad, they put it on the wings.
Okay, so I've never had their wings. Their chicken cutlets are phenomenal.
But try the wings.
All right.
Try the wings. They're masterfully done by Mike, by Chuck, by the whole crew. Love it.
It's good stuff. All right.
If I sit here long enough.
Yeah, we'll go through every spot in Western New York.
What's your favorite wing place? Okay, Vic just mentions 6 or 8.
It's hard to find bad wings in Western New York. They're out there, but we're blessed to have so many great wing spots.
Yes.
And then, so then how many have you ever put down or seen put down?
All right. So this
is a shame-free zone.
There's a Bill story to this.
Okay.
First, let's do the scene put down. You brought up Fred Smerlas. So training camp Fredonia. And this was kind of in the latter part of Fred's time. Maybe it probably happened earlier. But when I discovered this, so he would share a room with Jimmy Richer, dorm there, and he, on a nightly basis, they would down upwards, Fred mostly, somewhere between 50, 75 wings at a sitting. Okay, this is after dinner and everything else. I mean, this is, the nightly.
This is the nightcap.
But the worst part of it and the gross part of it is, it's not gross that he's eating 50 wings or 100 wings. That's wonderful. The bones are being tossed into the corner of the dorm and just piling up there. I don't know.
That's a bit much.
If you think about, you think about, eat, and they're,
in summer, no less,
in
right?
summer,
in the summer.
Bugs and different things get attracted. And so like the cleanup staff that they had, I guess they weren't super attentive at the time. They'd come in occasionally to clean. Because I think the idea, and the players weren't crazy about wanting them even coming into their rooms as a rule. But I saw that pile once, and it almost made me not want to eat wings for a bit, because I said, Fred, what are we doing here, dude? It's so there was that story. For me, I know I could polish off more than 20, more than a double order myself. I can't I physically can't do it. And, we'll share, fortunately, when we get them, a lot of times my daughter and son-in-law live like around not far from us. And my son-in-law's a big guy, loves wings, and we'll eat them together. I mean, my daughter or my wife or whatever, they'll have some, but we're there for serious. And usually the nights when they're out somewhere together, out to dinner or at Shays or something, he and I will, that's where we, we'll do some serious wingage, maybe 10 apiece.
Yeah, I've realized the older I get, it's getting harder and harder. I used to be able to put down 20, like no problem. Yeah. I think I can still put down 20, but I walk out of the place going, oh.
Yeah, I want to feel good.
Next morning I wake up like, what was I doing?
I don't. That's the thing.
Got a wing hangover.
I just don't want to do so much internal damage with or external. But no, it's just have fun and enjoy it. And I also find that I don't want to. I used to do it like that's when I would love a beer, the cold beer with the wings, but the beer invades the space. I want wings. I want the space to be devoted to the wings.
I love it. This was a great conversation. Vic Carucci, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. This was awesome. Thank you.